Now, let me go on for another couple of minutes because there's something I want to share with you here, a new development, I think. All along, we've been talking about a political process. Israel's had a conception, it's going there. The United States is supporting it, of course. Through the Annapolis process that we're in today, this is the right around this time, actually in November, is a year since the Annapolis process began. It's a process of apartheid, trying to impose apartheid. And it's not going to work because the Palestinians will not accept apartheid and the international community won't accept apartheid. But if it doesn't work, Israel says, so what? Okay, big deal. The status quo, the matrix of control, the status quo is fine. We can live like this for years. Because Israelis are living very well today. They live in an island. They live in a bubble. It's very secure. You know, attacks have been really reduced to nothing, pretty much, by the army. Palestinians have been contained. They've almost disappeared in some ways. The Israeli economy is booming. Tourism is on the rise. Tourism's returned. We're having a record year of tourism now. Israel's international status just improves day by day. Israelis say, what's wrong? We can live like this forever. So the danger is, and here I want to make a little shift. The danger is warehousing. Warehousing. That is simply saying, okay, there's no solution. All right? And Barak has said that in those terms. Barak has told the Israeli people there is no political solution. So what do? We take this people and we lock them up. We lock them in the Bantustan. We don't care if they agree. We lock them up and we throw away the key. And today we're in a situation where the Palestinians are being fed by international relief agencies. By the UN, by CARE, by Oxfam, by the Red Cross. I mean, there's a million. It's a huge industry. And that's the humanitarian part of it that I don't like. And Gaza is defined as a humanitarian crisis. So we all have to go out and we have rock artists that have all kinds of benefit concerts. Just like, you know, and Bono is the biggest one. He doesn't do it for Palestine, but it's the same thing for Africa, really. In other words, you're warehousing people, and then you get good liberals to give money so that they can all keep their heads above water. You know, so in a sense, the humanitarian organizations, the relief organizations are enabling the occupation. They're a part of the warehousing. So that the Palestinians, I think, are being warehoused. Okay, now that's not big news. All right, so I think where this is significant, I mean, besides the fact that this is obviously affecting the Palestinians, and it's something we have to oppose. Besides that, there's a more sinister part of this that I just want to bring up, and this is where I begin to bring it home. And that is that, you know, we can ask the question, why does Israel get the support it gets for these? Here's an occupation in the Holy Land, no less, on the southern border of Europe, in the light of day. Violations of dozens of UN resolutions, violations of international law, of human rights, violence. What, you know, why does Israel get the support it gets? Why are McCain and Obama falling over each other on who's more pro-Israel? What's going on here? And I think, I mean, part of the answer I'm not going to get into is the military. But, and here I'm starting to take from Naomi Klein, you know, in her book, The Shock Doctrine, that everybody should read. I mean, it's really a book that will change the way you see things. I know you all know who Naomi Klein is. And she talks about this issue of warehousing as well. And she suggests that the reason Israel gets the support it gets is because it's developing a model in Palestine. It's developing a model of warehousing that's tremendously useful to the industrialized world. Because the idea of warehousing began with prisoners. I mean, Naomi Klein didn't coin the phrase warehousing. It began with prisoners. You know, you have millions and millions of prisoners all over the world, including in this country, where you have the record number of prisoners, all over the world, and who thinks about them? They're gone. Nobody thinks about them, nobody cares about them, they're disappeared, they're not an issue. You're not going to get McCain and Obama debating prison reform in any debate. You see, they're warehoused. And then the concept was extended. There's a fellow named Mike Davis who wrote a book called Planet of Slums, in which he claims there are 1 billion people that are being warehoused in the 29 largest urban slums of the world. And so that, and then you go beyond that, and you've got immigrants, including so-called undocumented immigrants, millions all over the world. And then you get whole continents, Africa, for example. In other words, what Naomi Klein says is that in the free market, the extreme free market ideology of Milton Friedman and these guys, and the Chicago boys that are the Chicago school that pursue this extreme free market capitalist approach are Obama's advisors.
Right.
I mean, where's Obama from? You know, from Chicago. So, you know, this is not just a Republican thing, unfortunately. And it's something we really have to keep our eyes open for. But what she's saying is that in this free market approach, half the population of the world or more are defined as surplus humanity. Now, how's that for a theological term in a church? Surplus humanity. In other words, these are people that are written off. The system doesn't need them. You know, the capitalist system doesn't need them. They'll never be productive. They'll never be educated. They'll never be a part of the system. Now, until now, warehousing is applied to poor people mainly. I mean, those are the people in prison. Those are the immigrants. Those are the subsistence peoples. You know, the slum dwellers are poor people. Now, I was in Edinburgh 3 weeks ago when the Bank of Scotland disappeared. The Bank of Scotland, which is like the symbol of Scotland, was established in the 17th century. In one day, 3 weeks ago, it was gone. That's it. It was swallowed up by a British bank called Halifax. That was then, the next day, swallowed up by a bigger British bank. And then that bank went bankrupt. 40,000 people lost their jobs in one day. 40,000 people. Now those aren't poor people. Those are professional people, educated, but they're going to be warehoused. They're never going to get their jobs back. Maybe a couple thousand, maybe somewhere. But essentially you got 40,000 educated European people that the system has spit out. And it doesn't need them. Because when you're consolidating and consolidating and consolidating, you don't need all those people. So warehousing is going to start to affect the middle classes. Look at this crisis in this country. You know, how many of us does the system need in the end? So that warehousing is getting to be more and more, I think, a global concern. And that's why Naomi Klein's book was so important. But what she claims is, she has a whole chapter on Israel and the Palestinians. What she claims is the Palestinians are the first entire people to be classified by the international community as surplus humanity.